the grass field and the changeover that's apparently coming here in the next year or two. The reaction from the public, I mean, outside of the aesthetic of just the visual.
Yeah, which it will look a whole lot different.
It'll look different. Personally, I think it'll look great.
Yeah.
But unless you are of a much older generation, you've never seen that place with a grass field before.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a grass field since 1969.
Yeah, so nice.
You
You've literally never seen it.
Never seen it.
So then obviously I haven't seen it. Nick hasn't seen it.
Never seen it.
My dad, he was born in 65. I don't know if he ever saw it. My guess would be no. Jack just had like a 12-yard punt. So I don't know. Well, I guess I do know. A lot of people haven't seen it. And so then it goes back to that question. Why should we care? Now, I like it because of the aesthetics. Studies have shown that it is better for injuries. Mm-hmm. That said, like, do we often point to that a little bit too much? Like everyone's going to be healthy all the time, right? Like this is just going to cut down on some stuff. But I don't think that like watching a 7 or 8 game home schedule, I don't think it's going to be noticeable for us. Like, oh, wow, look at the injuries are down. I think it's good because football is such a small sample size sport to begin with that I think a lot of that stuff can be really, really difficult to show itself over the course of many years. Because, look, I know it. I know that the sarcasm and schadenfreude, the first time somebody tears their ACL on the new grass field, that stuff's going to come out of the woodwork. Oh, yeah. I thought it was supposed to be fine. Like, we're going to see that type of stuff.
Oh, certainly. And there may be a moment where, because of weather, the field conditions may not be optimal. And so you'll get, this happens all the time. Not referring back to this Saturday, but, how one side claims the moral high ground and then instantly the other side, it's that whole push and pull. And yeah, you'll probably have folks who get snarky when because the injuries will happen. It's football. That's the way it is. I mean, injuries do happen. I've seen some of the worst injuries ever on a grass field when it comes to knees and ligaments and things of that nature. A lot of times it's just about when you get hit, where you get hit, and a lot of times it's just about fate. Now, I will say this, will it help the team psychologically?
Maybe.
Will psychologically people just feel more comfortable or feel like they're being more taken care of? Certainly, Matt Rule's justification for wanting to do this does come from a health and well-being standpoint. Mm-hmm. No question about it.
Yeah.
Will that move be felt reverberate through the organization as, hey, coach is looking out for us? Because one thing that has changed from this generation of players to the previous generation of players, most people of my generation didn't play on artificial fields until they got to college. Because
interesting.
Because field turf essentially started in 1999. Nebraska was famously one of the first major places to have field turf, college or pro. And what it did was eventually it allowed for more high schools to have. I don't know the official count, but don't most of our major high school fields in this town have artificial turf? Mm-hmm. I know Seacrest Field in Lincoln has had artificial turf for a very long time. In fact, famously, they got their field turf not long after Nebraska got theirs.
Yeah.
And so
because the upkeep is so difficult.
This generation, or the last generation of high school players, has probably played most of their games on field turf.
100%, yeah.
Or at least it's a lot more today than it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be you played on grass everywhere in high school, period.
Yeah, now
because
not
high
so
schools
much.
Didn't spend the kind of money it took to get artificial surfaces. And then when the field turf, and we'll call it the new age artificial surfaces with the rubber pellets and the sand and everything, started to become more prevalent and was a lot more cost effective, a lot more places started to get it. So I do wonder from that standpoint, how many of today's players will feel more comfortable on grass because they've grown up playing a lot of their games on artificial turf.
100%. A comment on the YouTube page from Husker Country writes, can you actually cite a study in a primary sports journal that demonstrates grass is greater than turf? Now, I did some cursory Googling, and I found a couple of studies, one that comes from a journal called Sports Biomechanics, the other that was, it looks like more of an independent study that was done across 2012 to 2016 regular season games, all 32 NFL teams. And ultimately, there's an article that kind of put all the information together that said a 2018 study underscores the risk of playing football and other sports on turf. The study assessed more than 4,800 NFL foot and leg injuries during regular season games from 12 to 16. It found that had every game been played on grass surface, at least 300 fewer foot and leg injuries would have been expected. Turf fields also appeared to significantly increase the likelihood of non-contact injuries. About 20% more non-contact injuries occurred per play on a turf surface than a grass surface. Another 2015 research found essentially more of the same. So that said, still, Coate, one of the researchers, cautions against drawing too many conclusions. Mm-hmm. After all, athletes who play on natural grass are not immune to injury either. A cleat fixed into a surface can sometimes benefit a player. So, they're out there. You just got to do a little Googling. Like, they're certainly out there. And enough people quote it, right?
Let me give you one that was quoted here recently. The NFL Players Association put out a statement regarding this issue here probably 2-3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And from the second paragraph from NFLPA.com, only natural grass can level the NFL's playing field. That's the title of the story. The data supports the anecdotes you hear from me and other players. By the way, the story is written by J.C. Treader on behalf of the NFL Players Association.
Okay.
The data supports the anecdotes you hear from me and other players. Artificial turf is significantly harder on the body than grass. That part is bold-faced. Based on NFL injury data collected from 2012 to 2018, not only was the contact injury rate for lower extremities higher during practice and games held on artificial turf, NFL players consistently experienced a much higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries on turf compared to natural surfaces. Specifically, players have a 28% higher rate of non-contact lower extremity injuries when playing on turf. Of those non-contact injuries, players have 32% higher rate of non-contact knee injuries on turf and a staggering 69% higher rate of non-contact foot, ankle injuries on turf compared to grass. So that's from the NFL Players Union. That's what they've been using because earlier this year, they made their arguments that everyone needs to go to grass.
Yeah.
And, of course, you had a lot of the owners saying, well, we play in the dome. We can't do that, blah, 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 blah. So that's what the NFLPA is citing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based on the NFL's own in-house injury data.
Sure. So there you go. I think that, again, the amount of games and plays in a football game are just so small in kind of the grand scheme of sports.
Mm-hmm.
But then you obviously throw in practices as well. Will it be noticeable for us? I don't know if we have the answer to that question just because injuries do happen. It is a physical, violent sport. And as one of the studies that I just read said, like, your foot can get caught. Your cleat can get caught in grass. It doesn't have to just be a field turf thing. But there are enough of these data points to point to this being better for everybody involved.
And while I would expect Nebraska and Matt Rule to do their due diligence, one of the things that bringing in a natural surface will do is you've got to be able to adjust based on weather conditions and how you mow it,
like Northwestern growing it high, Notre Dame growing it high for the 05 USC game, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more preparation that will go into playing on a grass field, not just from a keeping the field maintained, but just on a, hey, which cleats are we wearing? Which shoes are we wearing? Where do we test the field? How's it going to respond in this weather versus this weather? And yes, it's going to be heated, and the technology has gotten a lot better than it was since the last time Nebraska had grass in the stadium. But it will require for them to do a little bit more work
yes,
than what they normally would have done when, And this is the reason why a lot of places go to artificial turf.
Maintenance is a lot easier.
Maintenance is easier. Literally, you can roll the ball out and play on it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Whereas
it just takes a little more preparation and, fluffing to get the field ready to go.
Whereas now, it's not going to be that way. There's going to be a lot more effort, a lot more work, and if you're willing to spend the money, and that's the thing, right? Make sure you have a good grounds crew. Make sure that the heating and the coils underneath it are good to go. Like, you watch the NFL, there are some places that play in cold weather locations, and their field looks good. The one that I think of off the top of my head is Green Bay. I think Green Bay, no matter the time of year, that field looks really, really good. There are others, Chicago comes to mind, Washington comes to mind, that looks crappy all the time. And so making sure that you are more of the former versus the latter is going to be important.
Also, I think the most important question regarding all of this, yours. When they mow it, are they going to use a lib machine or a gas mower?
The question that we're all asking.
Well, I mean,
John's he's gonna rip up his diploma if they use a lib machine, throw it in the dumpster.
Well, yeah, because you're not supposed to vacuum your grass; you mow your grass.
Maybe we get that guy that has the diesel mower.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sure some of the beady-eyed, four-eyed people in the
people are trying
higher
to save
education
the
will say,
"You need to use the electric one."
Try to save the planet.
I used a lib machine this weekend.
How'd it go?
I liked it.
Oh, there you go, John.
It was a really nice cut.
He liked it.
You know what I didn't use? A lib machine.
The lawn looks amazing.
And all the energy it took to create the batteries to build that lawnmower probably polluted the atmosphere anyway. If you want to use a real lib machine, just get a bunch of goats.
Oh.
Or what about those old school mowers where it just had the blades and you just pushed it?
You could do that too. Actually, I have a neighbor who has one of those.
I want to use one.
I went for a walk. This is a few weeks ago, and I saw him. It was like I didn't want to stand there and look like I was watching him, but I wanted to see how it worked.
Creeper.
I didn't want to be.
Yeah, no, I just had my binoculars out. My shirt was off.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how it worked.
Oh, interesting.
I've always been fascinated.
It was hot outside.